Let us see the last part of Mijbil the otter. Midge and I remained in London for nearly a month. He would play for us with a selection of toys, ping pong balls, marbles, rubber fruit, and a terrapin shell that I had brought back from his native marshes. With the ping pong ball, he invented a game of his own which could keep him engrossed for up to half an hour at a time. A suitcase that I had taken to Iraq had become damaged on the journey home, so that the lid, when closed, remained at a slope from one end to the other. Mitch discovered that if he placed the ball on the high end, it would run down the length of the suitcase. He would dash around to the other end to ambush its arrival, hide from it, crouching to sprung up and take it by surprise, grab it and trot off with it to the high end once more. Now that we know that the author had successfully taken Otter to his native, and he explains what are all the things that the Otter started to do with him in Otter's native. Normally, the otter play with the ping pong balls, marbles, and rubber fruit, and with the terrapin shell. Terrapin shell is the shell of a tortoise. Usually, otter play with this toys, and the otter had invented a game. The game is like the author Maxwell had a mended suitcase. The suitcase was damaged in the journey, and because it is damaged, the suitcase didn't close properly. So there is one raised end and one lowered end. Now that author had found that if it places a marble on the high end of the suitcase, it rolls down to the lower end. So he placed the marble that the otter placed the marble on the high end, and before the marble comes back to the lower end, he comes to the lower end and sprung up to catch the marble when it arrives. After the marble had arrived at the lower end, he again goes back to the higher end of the suitcase and plays the marble again. This is a game that was invented by the otter. Now let us see the next paragraph. Outside the house, I exercised him on a lead precisely as if it had been a dog. Mitch quickly developed certain compulsive habits on these walks in the London streets, like the rituals of children who, on their way to and from school, must place their feet squarely on the center of each paving block, must touch every seventh upright of the iron railing, or pass to the outside of every second lamppost. Opposite to my flat was a single storied primary school, along whose frontage ran a low wall some 2 feet high. On his way home, but never on his way out, Mitch would tug me to this wall, jump onto it, and gallop the full length of its 30 yards, to the hopeless distraction both of people and of staff within. Next, it started to develop compulsive habits like children's. The author explains the compulsive habits of children's, like children normally do not play their feet on the borders of the square box while walking. And the second compulsive habit is like they used to touch the seventh upright iron railings on their way. The third compulsive habit of the children is like they move outside of The second lamppost. Likewise, the otter also had developed a compulsive habit. The compulsive habit developed by the otter is there was a primary school in front of the otter's flat. In front of the primary school, there is a low wall which is running for nearly some 30 yards, and the height of the wall is like 2 feet. So while his way to home, not when the author tries to take the otter to a walk, he'll not do it, but after completing his exercise or walking, when they were returning to home, only in that uh, time the the otter jumps on the wall and runs through the 30 yards of the wall, and he'll never mind about the distractions made by the pupil in the school or the stops within. Now let us see the last paragraph. It is not, I suppose, in any way strange to an average Londoner should not recognize an otter, but the variety of guesses as to what kind of animal this might be came as a surprise to me. Otters belong to a comparatively small group of animals called musclines, shared by the badger, mongoose, weasel, toad, mink, and others. I faced a continuous barrage of conjectural questions that sprayed all the musclines but the otter. More random guesses hit on a baby seal, a squirrel, is that a walrus, mister? Reduce it to me giggles. And outside the dog show, I heard a hippo, a beaver, a bear cub, a leopard, one apparently that had changed its spots, and a brontosaur, which was anything but an otter. Here, since the Londoners were unfamiliar about this animal, they started to guess what kind of animal it would be. Actually, otter belongs to a group of family called muslins. In that family, they had badger. In that family, they had badger, mongoose, weasel, toad, mink, and others. It includes otter as well, but they started guessing the other animals like badgers, mongoose, weasels, toad, and mink, except for otter. And they even started guessing it as a baby squirrel or a beaver. Outside the dog show, they started guessing it as a hippo, a beaver, a bear cub, or a leopard who has lost its spots. These are the many guesses that arose on the minds of the people because Londoners have never seen an otter before. But the question for which I awarded the highest score came from a laborer digging a hole in the street. I was still far from him when he laid down his tool, put his hands on his hips, and he began to stare. As I drew nearer, I saw his expression of surprise and affront, as though he would have me known that he was not one upon whom to play a joke. I came abreast of him. He spat glad and then growled out, "Here, mister, what is that supposed to be?" Even though the author got so many guesses, the author suggested that he would give an award for a question is while he was walking with the otter in the London streets, a laborer who was digging a hole in the London street glared at the author and asked him what this is supposed to be called. He don't know, he don't want to make any guesses, and he just wants to know the name of the animal. So the laborer asked the author that what it is supposed to be called. This is how the journey of the author and author went. Now let us see some hard words. Here crouching is a hard word. Crouching means adopt a position where the knees are bent and the upper body is brought forward and down. It is like the uh, position most football players do while they were in the ground, as well as the athletes do. And trot is jog. The next hard word is affront. It is here affront. The meaning of affront is an action or a remark that cause outrage or offense. Something that makes you anger is affront. And abreast is standing side by side facing the same side. And spat is like short argument. And those are the hard words. That's all for this video now.